And for even more chances to win, stop by the DIY Home Center Outlet, 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just next to Dollar General, and enter your name to win a pair of tickets to the Coke Zero 400. Prizes to be given away live on air July 1st, so you'd better race down to DIY Home Center Outlet and keep it tuned right here to The Source.
La Famiglia Pizzeria has moved into Ocala. Stop by today at 2504 Southeast 17th Street and see for yourself what everyone is talking about.
Awesome place. I never get pizza anywhere else.
Great New York-style pizza and dishes.
Best pizza in Ocala.
One trip and you'll agree, La Famiglia Pizzeria is the best. La Famiglia Pizzeria. Stop by for a pizza that you'll love or call in and order yours for pickup. 352-245-2419. La Famiglia Pizzeria.
All right, 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I guess I have to have a little disclaimer here. I in no way know that what I'm about to say is absolutely true, but this is a true story. Robin and I were heading to Nashville, and we had to leave really super early, so it was still dark. And there was a car in the middle of the interstate, completely engulfed in flames. And you know, I have no idea what the story was. It was close to Gainesville, right? So I don't know if it made the Marion County News, but it was probably anyway. I had remarked to you at that time is I said, you know, I don't remember all my life seeing cars on fire, and that was like the third one I had seen.
Yeah, great.
It was unbelievable, and I mentioned it on the radio, like when we got back from Nashville. And we had a caller who said, and this is where my disclaimer plays a role, because I don't know that this is the cause, but the caller said it had to do with the fact that cars aren't made to have ethanol, and we have no choice but to have ethanol. And some motorcycle riders will tell you the same thing, that they've had some issues with ethanol. So my disclaimer just kind of gets me off the hook because I'm not an expert on this, but that was just my observation. Mike Lavender and Emily Cassidy are experts in this. Mike is a policy analyst for the Environmental Working Group, and Emily is a research analyst for the Environmental Working Group. They're on the phone right now to talk to us on the air about the federal government renewable fuel standard and the far-reaching effects that the ethanol mandate is having on the environment, let alone on the vehicles.
Yeah.
And before I say anything to them, just so they know, I don't expect them to necessarily agree with what I was implying. I'm just telling you what I saw and what we were told by a listener. Mike Lavender and Emily Cassidy, good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Where are you? Good morning, both of you. Where are you? Are you in the same place?
Yeah, we are in our office here in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay. Right now, if I go to certain gas stations, I can opt to have ethanol-free gasoline. And so a lot of people are thinking that's a good move. What does the mandate say, though?
Well, so Congress intended the mandate to, be good for Americans across the board. They intended the mandate to require increasing amounts of biofuels, such as corn-based ethanol, to be blended into gasoline, as you can find at almost any gas station. They intended for that to be good for car engines, to be good for boat engines, to be good for small engines, and they also intended that fuel to be good for the environment. Congress passed the Renewable Fuel Standard in 2007, and in the nearly decade since, what we've learned is that corn-based ethanol is good for none of those things.
Oh, really?
As you mentioned, yeah, with the car on fire, I can't attest to what specifically that was caused by. But what we do know is that corn ethanol is not good for car engines, for the vast majority of car engines, particularly at higher blends. In most gas stations, you see E10, which means the gasoline you're putting in your car or your boat is 10% ethanol. So that can be detrimental to those engines, but it's also bad for the environment. It's bad for water quality, air quality, and it also releases more greenhouse gas emissions.
Oh my goodness! Wasn't that the whole intent, was to make it better for the environment? How did they not see this coming?
Well, so it was the intent of the 1,000 plus, or of the 100 or so plus pages of the Renewable Fuel Standard. In the first sentence, it says we want to create clean, renewable fuels. But what we know is that corn ethanol is worse for the environment than gasoline. So a lot of the science in 2007 was hopeful in that corn ethanol would be good for the environment, but what we've learned since is anything but, and it's having an impact on every American across all walks of life.
So in the interest of the short interview, we don't even want to talk about what it might be doing to the cars, because you want to talk more about what it's doing to the environment. Am I right? I want to make sure I
Exactly.
stick to the topic you want to talk about. Okay, so that's another topic for another day. What it does to the cars, but to the environment. How is this something that is reversible, and not just the environment? Is that reversible? But I mean, can we undo the mandate? Can we say, well, that was a mistake? Can we undo it?
Well, I don't think, from the environmental working group's point of view, I don't think we want to undo it. What we want to do is we want Congress to take a look at the standard and restructure it so that we're getting biofuels that are actually good for the environment, that are delivering on the originally stated goals. And I know Emily, does a lot of research into, what biofuels are actually good for the environment and how can we get there.
That's what I want to know. So
she can tell you.
Go to Emily now. Good morning, Emily. Which ones are good for the environment?
Well, we know for a fact that corn ethanol is worse for the climate and worse for the environment than gasoline because there's been a lot of grasslands and wetlands that have been plowed up to produce more corn. And so when we plow up these pristine ecosystems, we're not only releasing soil carbon into the atmosphere, we're also increasing the amount of fertilizer that we apply to that land, which runs off into water, making drinking water more expensive to treat. And it also emits a lot of particulate matter into the air, which is bad for us to inhale. So it's bad for human health as well. And what we're really interested in is ways that we can incentivize advanced fuels that use wastes like corn stover or like grease from restaurants. You can turn that into biodiesel. And so that would be a case in which we're using something that's not being used for anything else and we're turning it into a fuel, which would be really good for the environment. But, the way that farmers could maybe switch up what they grow is by growing these energy crops, one of which is called switchgrass, which is a prairie grass that sequesters a lot of carbon into the soil and can also filter out some of the fertilizer before it reaches the rivers. And so there's a lot of potential for us to change up this policy to incentivize the production of more fuels that are good for the environment rather than corn ethanol, which uses a lot of fertilizer and a lot of water too.
Okay, so it sounds like the switchgrass is beneficial in more than one way.
Yeah, it certainly has the potential to, be really good for farmers and to, have them be placed in buffer strips so that they're good for water quality. They could also be habitat for migrating birds. And so, we see a lot of great potential for changing up what we grow and how we grow it so that we can have it work for the environment and for farmers and consumers.
And we're told that the price of corn for consumers is going up because they're using the corn to make these fuels. But I always thought there was field corn that they grow for animals, to feed animals, and then there's sweet corn that they grow for humans. Why are they taking the corn away from the humans and not the animals?
Well, so, when we eat meat and dairy, for example, when we're having our steak, the animals ate the field corn. So it's corn that we use for animal feed for the most part. And so, but what happens when we're using such a large proportion, we're using about 40% of the corn that we grow in the United States for ethanol, is that it increases the price of animal feed, which then increases the price of meat and dairy. But it also affects the price of different crops, and it affects global communities, especially those that can't afford to eat every day. And so it increases the volatility of the price of different kinds of food. And so that's really bad for, for consumers here at home and also for those who can't afford that much food in different countries.
Emily and Mike, thank you for being on the air. It's disappointing that we are running out of time, but I want the listeners to be able to look this up, especially in regards to who to write regarding the mandate. Is the information all on your website?
Absolutely. You can visit the Environmental Working Group's website. We're at www.ewg.org. And really, I think the best thing for folks to do is to understand what's happening to the environment and to their cars and to their boats because of this policy, and contact your congressperson, contact your senator.
Bottom line,
let them know.
Thank you.
Yeah, let them know that this is affecting you.
Thank you to both of you.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. He'll be charged with escape and burglary. David Sweat, who broke out of a northern New York prison 3 weeks ago, captured yesterday. State Police Superintendent Joseph D'Amico says Trooper Jay Cook chased him down.
He fired 2 shots from his service weapon, his handgun, hitting Sweat twice in the torso.
Those two